This is KBOI 2 News this morning.
6:14. When it comes to prisoners, who stays in and who gets out? That's the question KBOI 2's Sarah Oshman is asking the Commission on Pardons and Parole. And as she found out, it's not always an easy decision.
5 parole commissioners from different backgrounds decide the fate of hundreds of prisoners each month.
They come together just for this, and they're very invested in having a good, fair system that protects public safety while it gives people the chance to be rehabilitated and stay in the community. And they just have a really tough job, and I think they do it pretty well.
Sandy Jones is the executive director of the Commission on Paroles and Pardons for the state of Idaho. She's traveled the country from Pennsylvania to Montana to Idaho and says the biggest difference between Idaho and other states in terms of criminal justice is the lack of resources.
Idaho certainly has a forward-thinking criminal justice system, but we're missing resources in the community that I would say pretty essential for offenders to be successful.
Parole commissioners take many things into account when making their decision: mental health, institutional behavior, the crime, rehabilitation, and the risk that they'll do it again. But it's not always easy.
It is a really difficult decision when a person has committed a crime that was extremely egregious or extremely violent. But since they've been in the institution and serving their fixed time, which might be 4, 5, 6, 10 years, they've been a model inmate.
A fixed sentence is the amount of time inmates must serve in prison. However, they can finish the rest of their sentence out in the community on parole. Inmates usually start meeting with the commission 6 months before their fixed sentence is completed.
If the board was to say no to somebody and say we're not going to parole you at this time, they would set the next hearing date. And that would depend largely on how that person was doing.
Since January 1st, the Parole Commission has granted 616 prisoners parole and has denied 492. Jones says it's a balancing act between keeping the public safe and letting people out of a crowded prison, which costs taxpayers every day. Keeping
people out on parole sometimes is a lot of work for a parole officer and for that person, but when it's successful, it's really worth it. It's cost-wise and in terms of lives.